Hi, welcome to my lecture on the overworked defender. And in this position, let's say it's black's turn to move. And we actually have a case of an overworked defender for white. And what the move is capturing the white rook with the black rook. Because watch what happens when we recapture with the queen. Now, this bishop, which was being protected by the queen, remember the queen was here, and it was protecting the bishop, is no longer being protected by the queen, and now it's sort of for free, has no protection. So black actually won a bishop. So let's just back up through the moves again. Black takes rook, white takes rook, queen takes bishop. So what is an overworked piece? Let's just define it, then I'll go over this situation again. Or sort of an overworked defender is a chess piece is overworked when it has more than one defensive job to do. And a defensive job is guarding pieces or important squares, and usually those are squares that lead to checkmate. That's probably the two biggest things that are exploited, is the guarding of pieces and the guarding of squares, which lead to checkmate. So just saying. And then next paragraph says, typically the overworked piece is exploited by capturing one of the pieces it is defending, or occupying a square it is defending. This forces it, meaning the defending piece, to leave one of its defensive jobs, usually resulting in loss of material or checkmate. So basically, that's what you're looking for when for an overworked piece, is that you're going to be looking for a piece which is guarding two things, and when it leaves the defense of, or maybe it's sort of called to duty to do one of its two duties, it can't perform the other defensive job. So let's go back to our example, meaning in the beginning here, the queen was protecting the rook and the bishop. Well, unfortunately, it can't do both of these jobs. I don't want to say perfectly, but unfortunately black can draw it away from one of its defensive jobs by capturing, like this. Okay, and that means the queen is then taken away from defending the bishop. So the queen is overworked. Now I just want to point out that, let's say the bishop was actually here. Okay, so let's say the bishop was on this square C2, not on C3. Now, if the rook captured, the queen would recapture, but it would still be guarding C2, or the bishop that was on C2. We're just a hypothetical situation. So in this case, the queen is not technically overworked, because when it was called to the defensive job of defending the rook, it could still actually defend the bishop. Okay, so let's go through some other examples of an overworked piece, or an overworked defender. Okay, I set up this position, and let's say it's white's turn to move. And once again, we have an example of an overworked piece. But for this time, it's actually black. And I'm wondering, maybe pause this video and say, which piece is overworked for black? Okay, so anytime you're looking for an overworked piece, you're going to be saying which piece is sort of performing two defensive jobs. And if it's called to one of those defensive jobs, it can't come to the defensive job of the other. Usually it's guarding a piece or a square. So in this case it's a piece. So the overworked piece here is actually this black rook. It's defending this bishop and this knight. But unfortunately, it can't if it's called to defend the bishop, it can't defend the knight. And if it's called to defend the knight, it can't defend the bishop. So the correct move here is actually taking this bishop here. Now black is faced with a dilemma, because if it captures the knight, white will just capture this knight. Okay? So this is an example of an overworked piece. So let's move on to another example. Okay, in this position it's white's turn to move, and here black has an overworked piece. It has a piece which is performing two defensive jobs. Unfortunately, if it's called to to perform its defensive task, it won't be able to do its other tasks. Like I said, it's doing two defensive jobs which it can't do at the same time, actually. And the move is, or the overworked piece, as I'll point it out, is this knight. And this knight is defending this knight here and this bishop. And the problem is that if it's called to one of its defensive jobs, it can't perform the other. And I just want to say, maybe I haven't pointed out, but usually when you do, as you see, well, so far what you've seen is just capturing one piece and then you get another piece. And a lot of these cases, you tend to capture with your least valuable piece first. It's a good rule of thumb. It may not always apply, but it's just a good rule of thumb to know, because you could say, in this example, or maybe I'll point it out, we're first going to capture with this bishop. And now black is left with a dilemma, because if it recaptures the bishop, the queen will win this bishop. Okay, so effectively we'll be winning a bishop. And let's say if black doesn't decide to capture this bishop, then we've picked up the knight, because technically the knight doesn't have to move here. Black can choose a different move, and the queen's not going to capture this bishop, but we're going to be able to move our bishop back, or move it out of harm's way. So that's another example. Here, let's try to get one more example. Okay, here's my final example of an overworked defender. So what is the move? It's black's turn to move. Now notice, basically, black could capture this rook, but, white would just recapture. No doubt with a winning game, black can win this game in the end, but there's actually a much better move. I just want to point out now which piece is sort of overworked. Okay, so, well, it's if you think about it, black would like to try to move its rook down, or it'd like to, maybe I should say, I'd like to checkmate on one of these two squares. The queen is so close, this black queen is so close to the king, that if it could get the rook pointed over here, it'd be great. So, basically, what is the move? Well, the move is actually this move, because now white has a problem. It can't recapture. Well, black is threatening checkmate, one of these two squares that I just talked about. So what can white do? Well, it could capture, but then the queen would just actually capture with checkmate. Okay, and it can't really defend I mean, it can't. So the piece that was actually overworked is this piece, because it really can't defend this rook here, and in effect it really can't defend this square, the d2 square, because this is the square that black is using to sort of deliver checkmate. So I'd like to capture on this square, d2, but if it tries to defend this rook here, you know, by moving away, white gets checkmated, and if it captures, white gets checkmated too. So basically, this rook cannot perform both duties, and therefore it is overworked, and black is going to be actually